well, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be playing a little bit of a game here, okay? We're going to be reacting to this kind of a game. It's Play Matchmaker, the NFL head coach Carousel. We're doing it for our Detroit Lions, of course. Now, I came across this. I was playing with it a little bit. I was looking at some of these names, and I was having some fun with it. So basically what they did was they took a lot of candidates, and they matched it up with the team, and they put out a grade. This is how well they think that coach candidate fits with the team. Now, everybody's going to have their own grade. My grade's probably going to be different from a lot of theirs. Your grade's going to be different from mine. Your grade's going to be different from theirs. They're all going to be crazy. Everybody has their own grades. But I thought we would react to this because people are always asking me, why don't we react to stuff? Okay, let's react to something. Now, let's do it. Let's have some fun with this. So I got notes on pretty much every single person here. I took a lot of notes on these guys. But we're trying to keep it kind of short and sweet because I don't want this video to be like 50 minutes because you know it will. Like, this isn't a breakdown. We'll do our specific breakdowns for candidates still, but I did want to react to this with you guys, just have some fun with it. So if you guys want to check it out, you can, but you're going to see it all here anyways. It's kind of fun, though. Like, look at this. Look. Oh, snap. You can throw the dude. You can move him. And then watch this. Bam. Like, what? Were you expecting that? I wasn't. Actually, I was because I've already done this, but look at this. What? The Texans, the Falcons, and the Lions. So everybody has a different grade. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun place. So let's take a look at the Detroit Lions and let's see what they say about each candidate. So let's go back here. All right. We're going to take a look at the best ones, the worst ones, the middle of the pack, all that stuff. And we're just going to talk about them a little bit. Kind of what's going on with them, how would they fit, what they do well, why I like them, why I don't like them. So we're going to start off with Arthur Smith here. Arthur Smith. We don't talk about this guy a lot. Maybe we'll have to do a video on him. Now, I'll kind of show you around real quick. So when you go on this, they'll give you the grade right here. They give it a C-, grading the match. And then they give you like just a sentence about what they think about it. There are pieces in place for Detroit for a strong run game that could form the foundation for Smith's offense. Okay, so they'll give you that. And then they tell you about the guy a little bit. Offense coordinator for the Titans. They give you some background. They talk about his biggest strength. 6.5. That's how many yards per play Smith's Titans have averaged on offense since Ryan Tannehill took over Week 7 last. That's impressive. That's super impressive. 6.5. And then they talk about the Lions' job. Now, this always stays the same, but they say here, why is the job appealing? Well, because they have a quarterback, right? That's super appealing. I think that's super appealing to Matt Patricia. And then they say, well, the ownership has shown to be patient. I don't know if I completely agree with that one, but I kind of understand what they're saying a little bit with the Patricia and, you know, Bob Quinn situation, but I didn't think it was super patient. However, get it. New owner Sheila Ford Hamp is an unknown. And then they say why it's not. Well, because, you know, we're bad and we've only won one playoff game, but it is a challenge. And that's my favorite part he brought up here is that, you know, if someone ever created a consistent winner in Detroit, though, he'd become a legend. That's pretty true. So boom, there you go. That's where we're at. So we're going to take a look at some of these candidates. We're going to talk about them a little bit. Let's just dive right into it. So we're going to start with Arthur Smith, who is given a C-. However, Arthur Smith, someone we don't talk about a lot. Right now, like they said, he's the offense coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. But he's kind of been involved in a lot of things. However, what he's known for me, is he would be a guy, like they said in their little snippet there, is that he would be a guy to come in and try to build through the trenches, build through the offensive line, build through the defensive line. What you see with Tennessee right now, where they're running a lot of play action with Tannehill, because Tannehill wasn't some insanely great quarterback, but they paired it with a Derrick Henry that's running absolutely wild, and the play action has been great. And you know, Tennessee, they've had that little run the playoffs last year, and here they are again. They're going for another playoff push. So there's that. But he's bounced all around. Reason being, well, he started at North Carolina as a player, as a guard. So he was a guard for North Carolina, which, you know, you understand it then. Okay, he's all about the foundation, right? The trenches first. Then coach, offensive line coach, quality control. He worked as a defensive intern in Ole Miss, kind of all over the place. But what I want to look at is where he was recently, right? That's right now, right here he is right now as the Titans offensive coordinator. So what were they like before he got there and what are they like now? Well, before he got there, now, definitely important to keep in mind that, okay, now Ryan Tannehill is taking over as quarterback, as they mentioned, you know, basically halfway through his second year as their offensive coordinator. It was before Marcus Mariota, who was running that. And I think it was also some Blaine Gabbert. I think that's who also it was. But in 2018, the offense was not very good. Now, this is before he got there. 2018, not very good. Only 19.9 points per game, 16 to 12 touchdown interception ratio, under 3,000 yards passing, 4.4 yards per carry, which is solid, 30 yards per drive. It wasn't a very good offense. He was promoted with Mike Vrabel from the tight end coach to the offensive coordinator. Matt LaFleur left. We know he became the head coach for the Green Bay Packers, so maybe if we could find some of that success, that'd be great. But in his first year then as the offense coordinator, taking over a Sterling offense, 25.1 points per game, which is a huge improvement, about 5 points per game more, 29 to 8 touchdown interception ratio, 35, close to 3,600 passing yards, 5 yards per carry, and 31.4 yards per drive. Every stat was improved. And now this season, so far, 30 points per game, 32-7 touchdown interception ratio, a little bit down in the passing yards at 3,449, but 5 yards per attempt. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's about to have the rushing title for the season, but that's what he'll bring. If you get a guy like Arthur Smith, you know, he'd come in. Now, he doesn't have that experience, which is always concerning for me, but what he would bring as a head coach here, you have to believe, would be working through the trenches, the foundations, building the offensive line. And I honestly think, again, he would be the kind of guy to bring in another running back with DeAndre Swift. And I think there could be some solid run game here. We talk about the one position lines must not overlook. That's the running back position. But there is an offensive line here that has a foundation that's built for the future. So I think that's why the C- is here, because if that wasn't the case, then it could be much lower. But that does give you some, okay, maybe this could work. Not my top candidate. I'd probably throw it at a C- too. Let's throw this guy out of the way. Next guy we got Robert Saleh. Now, this guy was tied for the highest grade given. And I get it, right? The match fit. I think I would probably give it a high grade 2 in terms of a match fit, where what's likely for the Lions to do. They said this: he has Michigan roots and the support of the state legislator. Some bets on defense could help implement his scheme quickly. Now, with Robert Saleh, we've already done a video on him, so I don't want to touch on him too much, but I will say this about Robert Saleh. Not my top candidate once again, because, you know, he hasn't had that experience. I think that's what the Lions ultimately need. But I do think I would give him a high match grade. The reason being is because I think he has so much support behind him. I think the most supported head coach candidate out there right now is Robert Saleh, and I don't think it's that close. I really don't. I think Robert Saleh would have by far the most support. He's from Michigan, right? He was watching Barry Sanders when he grew up. I think all of that comes into play. I have the full video breakdown, so I don't really want to touch them on all because I'm trying to save some time here. But if you guys want to check that out, you can. However, I can see why the match grade is high. I'd probably throw it, for me personally, my match grade would be lower because I don't think he's, you know, the best candidate for us, but I understand why their match grade is high. So I understand that completely, just because of the fact that I think he would have tons of support behind him. All right, next guy we have is Byron Leftwich. Now, I didn't even look at Byron Leftwich. I looked at everybody else. I haven't looked at Byron Leftwich, so we're actually going to pass on this one, and maybe we'll come back to him at the end. Next up, we have Greg Roman. Favorite thing about his story, how he got to where he is probably one of my favorite stories, because I just liked how he got here, the adversity he went through. So Greg Roman, when he was a kid, you know, their family, you know, were struggling with some money and things like that financially. So he was a paper boy, and he was helping with their family and helping pay bills, things like that. And he also helped pay for his schooling. I just think that just speaks to your character, and that's incredible. I think the fact that, you know, he has done that kind of thing, it makes you like him. It really does make you like him as a candidate. Also, there's some really weird, like, connections, I feel like, with Greg Roman as you look at him. So he was at John Carroll University, I should say. He got his first opportunity with the Panthers, and he took an unpaid strength and conditioning coach job. Unpaid. All right, so he started with the Panthers unpaid. So he just wanted an opportunity to get his foot in the door. I think the kind of things that he went through to get where he was, to where he is, stands out to me. I think that's just so impressive. But he was a tight end and quarterback coach with Houston, an offensive line assistant in 2006. In 2008, he went back to his alma mater, to be their offense coordinator for one season. But here's where things get interesting. In 2009 with Stanford, he was their tight ends and offensive tackle coach with Jim Harbaugh. So there's a connection. And then when Jim Harbaugh left to go to San Francisco from Stanford, Greg Roman followed Jim Harbaugh, and he became their offensive coordinator until 2014. Why 2014 was significant? Jim Harbaugh went to Michigan. Greg Roman left. They were connected, both with San Francisco and with Stanford. I just thought it was an interesting connection. You find a lot of these when you look at these guys. 15 offense coordinator with the Bills. He was actually fired, though, in 2016, which not something you want to see. Then in 2017, he worked with John Harbaugh. So he got his work with John Harbaugh, and you could tell there's got to be some ties there, because John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh's brother, he works with him as the assistant. He becomes the assistant head coach, promoted his way up. Then he becomes the offense coordinator after the offense coordinator there before is fired in 2019, and now he's working with Lamar. We know what this offense has done. It's been an interesting offense, to say the least, but they've done some really big things kind of unexpectedly, and they kind of just shot up. So Greg Roman, man, I actually kind of like it. Like, he hasn't had that experience, but in terms of guys that haven't had experience, I'm completely sold on what I see with his production, but I do like the background story of what he did to get there. I just love the heart. The willingness to make it happen, to me, is what really stands out. Next guy we have here, oh, wait, I about moved the wrong thing. Next guy we have here is a guy that everybody loves. I know you guys love this. Jim Harbaugh. So they give Jim Harbaugh a B, which is the second highest grade they give to Robert Saleh. They say this: he wouldn't have to move far, which is good, and maybe the right defensive coordinator gets this turned around quickly. Now, we're not going to touch on Jim Harbaugh too much, because if you guys have followed my channel, you know how I feel about Harbaugh. I like him. But I will say this, with Harbaugh, the reason I could see this grade being lower than what it is, because I think he checks all the boxes that you want. The grade would go down for me just simply because I think he'd be the opposite of Robert Saleh in terms of Robert Saleh has all that behind him, right? Robert Saleh has, the people behind him. I think he would have the great fan base. With Jim Harbaugh, I don't think right away he would have that support behind him. Now, is that something that should keep Sheila Ford-Hamp from being interested in hiring him? I don't think so. But I'm just saying, I think I think it's a big factor. And if Sheila Ford-Hamp is listening to the fans like we believe that she is, I think that's really going to hurt the chances of Jim Harbaugh being in Detroit. Now, I do want to throw this out for anybody wondering what's going on there with the situation in Michigan. I tried to look it up, try to figure out what's going on there. So basically with Michigan, the thought is that there is an extension on the table. Michigan offered an extension, but he hasn't signed it. So why hasn't he signed it? Well, I'll show you this podcast clip, but people believe from within inside the Michigan world, first option to him would be to go back to the NFL and coach in the NFL. Now, the Chargers are the team that's getting the most talk because of, where it's at, obviously everything like that. It's a young quarterback. With the whole Michigan situation, we're going to have a lot of fans that necessarily don't want it. Again, I don't think that should really affect Sheila Ford-Hamp's decision, to be honest with you, because we're just fans, and this is her team. I'm going to show you this little podcast clip, and this is what they said they believe is going on with Jim Harbaugh, where he's basically using Michigan as a fallback option. They believe the extension is on the table. First priority is trying to get an NFL job if he can get one. It also could be for leverage, trying to get more money, whatever it may be. But that's that. So I'll show you that clip.
Comes from the Harbaugh side. Two independent sources that I reached out to in the last 36 hours that are both close to members of the Harbaugh family have told me that the preferred destination here is still the NFL.
I mean, most fans voted for Matt Patricia to be our last head coach. They did a poll in a survey. Who would Lions fans want as next head coach? Most fans, a majority of fans, voted for Matt Patricia as our next head coach. It should have an impact. She should make the decision, not based on, what's going to make people feel good for the right now, for the immediate moment. She needs to make it for what she believes is the best decision for this franchise going forward. Because again, if you're winning games, people will, they'll be excited. That's all people want at the end of the day is winning games. But if you just if you make moves just to make the fan base happy instantly, you're going to have a problem. It needs to be more analytic and more statistical than simply just emotional right now in the moment. It has to be something that's over a period of time. Okay, so there you go. That's kind of what's going on with the Harbaugh situation. It's kind of weird. We'll hopefully figure it out soon. But they gave him a B. Next up, we have, who do we have next? Next up, Marvin Lewis. Now, they gave Marvin Lewis a B+ here. I was surprised how high of a grade they gave for Marvin Lewis. They said this: teams often like to replace outgoing coach with someone opposite. Lewis, who has a background on defense, likely keeps things calmer in the locker room than Matt Patricia did. That's an interesting point. Now, I gave him a B+. The one thing I obviously love about Marvin is his experience, but it's kind of hit and miss with me. See, Marvin Lewis has coached for a long time. Everybody knows Marvin Lewis from his time in Cincinnati. From 2003 to 2018, he was their head coach. Now, things that I like. He took over a team that was 2-14. They went 8-8 the first year, and he built a foundation where they were 8-8, 8-8, 11-5, 8-8. Right? They were building the right way, the right direction. And he's done some nice things with Cincinnati. Now, before he got to Cincinnati, he worked as a linebacker coach, so he has that linebacker background. And the Baltimore Ravens became a thing after they moved from Cleveland. You know about the Baltimore Ravens when they became a thing. Well, he was the defensive coordinator on that Ravens team, and this is what I really like about him. I didn't really know this, but he had like the best defense in football, and he had the best defense, led the best defense in football with the Ravens. They won a Super Bowl. They dominated. This opportunity from a lot of teams. A lot of teams were looking at him to become a head coach. He decided to go with Cincinnati, and like I said, he turned it around. The issue is he had really from 2011, I think, to 2015, all playoff seasons. The biggest issue, everybody knows it, he didn't win a playoff game. They were 0-7 in the playoffs. He did some nice things. He had the only time they went 6-0 in the AFC North was under Marvin Lewis. That's impressive, right? To win every single division game. He's won the division a few times. He's just never won a playoff game. Has he come close? Absolutely. You guys remember the year where they went 12-4 and they played the Steelers, and it was like the flags where they had multiple flags and they got the Steelers in field goal range and they won 16-18? Yeah, that was when he was the head coach. That was an ugly finish. They started 8-0 that season, which was the best in franchise history. They finished 12-4. So you like a lot of things here. Now it finished on a bad note. Couple of losing seasons. He moves on. Then he goes to the college ranks, and now he's kind of working there as an assistant coach, things like that. So he's still working, which is nice. But the biggest thing here is he just didn't show that he could have that posting success. There's definitely things to like about Lewis, the experience, the fact that he led the great defense. He was the coach of the year in 2004 on a 10-6 season where he beat every single AFC North team. He has the accolades. The one big thing that's just hanging over his head is the fact that he could not win a playoff game. Now, he was a big part bringing Andy Dalton, bringing AJ Green, because they went from having one down season. 2010, they had a down season, right? Well, then they bring in Andy Dalton, AJ Green, and with the first, second round picks, so he finds a quarterback, which is another plus. He finds a quarterback, AJ Green, and Carson Palmer refused to play, so they had to trade him, and they found a way to get back into a 9-7 season off a 4-12 season. So that's the big thing hanging over him. He just hasn't won that playoff game. Next up, we have, who we got next? Matt Eberflus. I think that's how you say his name, Matt Eberflus. I think it's how you say his name. I have Matt's notes over here as well. Didn't realize, some of the stuff. So he's from Toledo, Ohio. He went to Whitmer High School, where he helped lead them to the state semifinals, which is pretty awesome. Then he was actually an assistant coach at Toledo, so he went back to Toledo as an assistant coach, linebacker coach. He coached defensive backs, coached a lot of defensive backs. Okay, he's another defensive-minded kind of guy. Got his opportunity with Missouri as he followed the Toledo head coach to Missouri. So he got his opportunity then over in Missouri, and they had one of the best defenses, a 22-6 record. Missouri was like big time at the time that he was there. Missouri was that team. 2 times in 2007, he was named the defensive coordinator of the week. Then in 2009, he went to the NFL, got his taste there as a linebacker coach with the Browns. The Browns coach over to Dallas, and he stuck with Dallas for a very long time, where their linebackers were having tremendous success. They put out a lot of good linebackers in that time period. Then in 2018, he became the defense coordinator, where he is now of the Indianapolis Colts with Frank Reich, who at the time they weren't even paired together. It was just kind of thrown, and GM's like, hey, trust me, this will work. And it has worked, right? The Colts have picked it up. The defense has been really good with Indianapolis. They went from the 30th ranked defense to the 10th ranked defense in just a matter of time. So what I like about him is, no, he doesn't have that experience as that coach, but when he did have his opportunity as a coordinator, he was really good at it. He was really good at his opportunity. So I think that's cool. Plus, he's, pretty close to Detroit, where he grew up. So I guess kind of close to having ties there. So that's Matt Eberflus. They give him a C+. Who we got next? We have... let's see. Oh, Brian Daboll. Okay, Brian Daboll. We haven't done Brian Daboll yet. He has Patriot ties, right? He has those connections. People just load up. I don't do that, right? It is what it is. Everybody's got ties from somewhere. So he has ties back with the New England Patriots. They say this: the Lions are a bigger project than many might like to take on, though they rarely seem that they are that far away from contention. Kind of a weird twist of words there, I guess. But Brian Daboll, he has those Patriot ties. He started at a very small college, and then he just moved over to Michigan State as a graduate assistant. He was the defensive coach assistant for the New England Patriots. He was actually promoted then to a wide receiver coach for the Patriots. Kind of weird. He became a quarterback coach for the Jets. So both defense and offense experience, which is kind of nice. 2009, he was the Browns offensive coordinator, which is weird because that's when Eberflus was working as the linebacker coach from the Cleveland Browns. You guys see the ties again? It's like, where is this coming from? 2011, the offense coordinator for the Dolphins. 2012, the offense coordinator for the Chiefs. The reason he was gotten opportunities because the Chiefs at that time had connections with him back from New England at the coaching positions. They also had Matt Castle, so they had the connections there again. 2013, he went back to New England, getting back on their coaching staff. In 2017, then he went to the college ranks and worked with Nick Saban. Now in 2018, a year later, he's with the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills offense has really turned it up this season. Before he got there, 4.8 yards per play, 16-10 touchdown interception ratio, only 4.1 yards per carry, and only 18.9 points per game. In his first season, 4.7 yards per play, 13 touchdowns to 23 interceptions. That was bad. It was Josh Allen's rookie season, though. 4.2 yards per carry, 24.6 yards per drive, and only 16.8 per game. So offense actually got worse, but they kept him around. And 2019, things picked up. 5.2 yards per play, 21 to 12 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per carry, and 19.6 points per game. But it was really 2020 that has put him on where people are looking at him now as a candidate, is because they are averaging 6.1 yards per play, 36 touchdown interceptions. We know Josh Allen is an MVP candidate, and they're also scoring almost 30 points per game. So that is what really has put him on the map, is the fact that this year has went so well. But it has went really well for him, so I think that's what really put him on the map. Did we talk about Eric Bieniemy? E-. They say this: the new coach in Detroit is going to have to oversee a transition from Matthew Stafford to whomever is the next quarterback, maybe in his first year. So they gave him a D-. They didn't really explain too much why, but I think I know why. Personally, he's not my favorite because, again, no experience. But even with the experience that he does have, I don't love it. All right, you look at a guy like Eric Bieniemy, who Again, not a full breakdown. We'll do one later. But you look at his time back when he was playing football, right? He played for college. He played for Colorado. And at Colorado, he got charged with a bar fight. So he got in trouble for that. Okay, it happens. But then the NFL, he got in trouble for harassing a parking assistant. And I'm like, what? How does that happen? I guess he grabbed her neck. She said it didn't hurt, but he grabbed her neck, which startled her. Then he was banned from Colorado's campus for a year. Got his opportunity to coach as a running back coach. Kind of a weird connection here again. I think he actually had a connection with Darrell Bevell, if I'm correct, because he was with the Vikings when they had Adrian Peterson as running back coach. Darrell Bevell was there when they drafted Adrian Peterson, so I think there was another connection there. You see a lot of connections. Then he went to Colorado. Interesting here, the thing I don't like is that when he went to Colorado to be their offense coordinator, he was a running back there. Things just didn't really improve that much. I mean, his last year was good, his first year was good, but the in-between wasn't. Now, obviously, schedules play a factor in college. Colorado probably wasn't the best team overall, but the offense wasn't that great. When he took over, they were completing 53% of their passes, only 2.8 yards per carry, 314 yards a game, 4.4 yards per play, and only 22 points per game. Not good stats. His first year, they improved at everything. 60% completion percentage, 3.7 yards per carry, 360 yards per game, 5.1 yards per play, 24 points per game. Great, but that didn't stay. Then in 2011, his second year as offense coordinator, down to 56% completion percentage, 3.5 yards per carry, only 346 yards per game, 5.3 yards per play, now 19.8 points per game, which was the lowest. That was lower than even before he got there. Then in his next year in 2012, only 55% completion percentage, 3.1 yards per carry. This is a running back coach. 3.1 yards per carry, 302 yards per game, 4.4 yards per play, and only 17.8 points per game. That's not good. Now, college is different because recruiting and things like that, but still, it's not something that pops out to me because the little experience that he does have, I'm not impressed by it. His final year, it ended pretty well. 56% completion percentage, 3.2 yards per carry, that's all right. 23.5 points per game, though. So they did get back and improve a little bit there, about 1 point more than what he did before he got there. But it just doesn't, it's not impressive to me, and that's what I'm concerned about. So how did he get his chance with Kansas City? He got his opportunity with Kansas City because Andy Reid knew him because he coached him in Philadelphia. So he brought him in as an assistant coach. He worked his way up. In 2018, he got his chance to be the offense coordinator. Now, the offense is doing great, no question. However, the offense wasn't bad before he got there. Even without Patrick Mahomes, they were doing some big things. The talent that they have now, to me, I almost am nervous that's more Andy Reid than anything because when he had his opportunity to be his offensive coordinator with Colorado, it just didn't go well. I'm not impressed with the experience that he did have because it just didn't go that well. I get why they give it a D-. He has no experience either. I think I'd probably throw it at a D- as well. Raheem Morris, not really going to talk about him, but he is the interim head coach for Atlanta. So that's everybody, man. We talked about them all, but aside from Byron Leftwich and Raheem Morris. Byron Leftwich, they say Lions probably have a quarterback transition future. Does Leftwich leave Tom Brady and Bruce Arians for uncertainty? So I don't think he'd be their next head coach. They gave him a C, which is actually kind of higher than I would have thought. But we know he was a quarterback as well, so that makes sense, I guess. And then obviously, Raheem Morris, Detroit's situation much different from Atlanta's and needs all kinds of help. So if they think the interim head coach is the right move, kind of what Darrell Bevell's going through right now. The final grades that I would give out for each candidate, not necessarily based on who I just want, but based on how I think it would fit with the Detroit Lions, maybe how likely I think the fit could be. Starting off with Brian Daboll, who is with Alabama, where they won the championship back 2017 when they won the championship with Alabama, 2018 with the Bills. We know what they've done. For me, they gave him a C-. I'd probably give him a D+, maybe a C-, probably a D+. The Patriot ties, I think, are going to keep the Lions away ultimately for anybody like that. So that's why my grade is so low. Next up, Eric Bieniemy. They gave him a D-. I kind of just discussed Eric Bieniemy. Personally, I'd probably give him a D- as well. Maybe a D. Maybe I'll be generous and give him a D, but my grade would be low for him as well. Raheem Morris, I don't know. I'm just going to pass on that one. You guys grade Raheem Morris. I'll leave it open to you guys. You guys grade that. Arthur Smith. Don't completely hate it because I think the Lions are already trying to build that way through the trenches, trying to be a play action type of team with Darrell Bevell. So it might not take forever for that thing to completely turn around. So they give it a C-. I'd probably throw it to a C. He doesn't have the experience, but in terms of guys that don't have experience, I don't hate it. So I'd probably bump that up, honestly, to a C. Next up, Robert Saleh. They gave him a B+. I'd bump that down a little bit. I'd probably throw it a B- to a B. One of those two grades. I think he'd be a good fit just because of, I think, the support that would be behind him. But I'd go probably a B- to a B. Byron Leftwich, we'll pass on that one. You guys can grade that one as well. Who we got? Greg Roman. Love what he did to get there. I absolutely love it. He was given a C. Some connections. Could he work with Jim Harbaugh in Detroit? Him and Jim Harbaugh? What? It's a crazy scenario. It's a pretty solid resume. The firing is a little bit concerning from the Buffalo Bills. Has a pretty solid resume. Doesn't have, the experience that head coach. But again, they give him a C. I'd probably keep it a C as well. I might even bump it up to C+ because I'm feeling generous heading into the new year. Then we have Jim Harbaugh, who was given a B. I'd give him a B to a B+. You guys know my thoughts on Jim Harbaugh. who we got next? Marvin Lewis, he's given a B+. I'd probably bump that down a little bit for Marvin Lewis for the Detroit Lions. Matt Eberflus, who, again, no experience as a head coach, but I actually really like what he did as a coordinator. They gave him a C+. I'd probably rock with the C+ as well. There you go. Those are my grades. Let me know your other grades in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.